any discussions?
I just want to apologize. When we were going over the one resolution, I was looking at the replacement of bridges within Montgomery County. So when we directed to Paul, that's why I asked the question about the bridges. So I apologize for my error. When we get to that, then I'll ask at the appropriate time. So thank you.
Okay, sure. Just so you know, I'll say it now. We are going to get a report from Mr. Claiborne every month for buildings and grounds and highway, and hopefully that'll answer some of your questions. He'll keep you informed of what's going on, what roads are going to be repaired, what bridges, and so forth. Okay, first resolution. Resolution appointing members of the Montgomery County Sanitary District Number 1 Board of Directors.
Sponsor.
Have a sponsor? Second. Move it to full board?
Is George's name in there?
Yes. George Capice is the name. Okay. And that's it. Have a motion to adjourn?
I have a question.
Oh, question? Okay.
I'd like to ask Paul. I was a very fortunate person to run into a huge pothole. Are you familiar with that at all?
The one alongside Miami
Where
Avenue.
you turning in, and the car before me, I guess, did severe damage to his car. I did, thank God. But I just wonder, what's the procedure, just for the paper?
It would,
For that.
Yeah, normally they would contact my office, we would fill out a report and send it to the Scott's Rental handles our insurance claims.
Is it like the city where you have to report it first before you can make a claim?
Well, we do have a prior notice law. The county does have a prior notice law.
Somebody else had the unfortunate time of hitting you first, right?
Yeah, but basically what it came down to is that the hole wasn't in Miami Avenue, it was in the Walmart driveway.
It was huge. The poor guy, thank God the guy went in front of me, because I would have been in front of us.
Yeah, technically it was in Walmart's driveway and not.
So it wasn't on our road then? Great. And I thought it was, somebody misled me, told me it was on our road.
It was close, but if the driveway was not there, the pothole would not have been there, it was off each page.
Thank you very much. And it was taken care of right away, by the way.
It was.
Somebody was out there right away.
Yeah, I know they were out there that night.
That's your guys?
They actually changed the woman's tire for her.
It was, yeah, he would have.
It did damage the rim.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, that's quite all right.
They did very well, by the way.
Okay. Legislator Quackenbush?
Barb had started to ask a question earlier about the bridges, and I just wanted to, we're under other, right?
Yes.
I wanted to also, if you could answer that question, but also my question was, what do you have on the docket? And what do you have on your agenda for this year for bridges?
Okay.
Yeah, whatever Barb's question is.
Well, it's under budget and finance.
Well, this is under other, you can ask. I just wanted to know about the,
Oh, it is on the agenda, yeah. The answer to her question is roughly 40% of our bridges are deficient, 42 or 43%.
so much on your agenda
Somewhere in there.
for this year.
I submitted a 6-year bridge plan. The first year, which would be 15 design, 16 construction, included McEwen Road and South Buell Road, both in the town of Keenan.
I appreciate your help.
Oh, come on.
Both of them last year were in District 3 too.
Is that in the capital project, Paul?
It was in
Yeah.
it was in the.
So you're on course to do what we thought we were gonna do.
And I believe we're going to have a meeting soon, right, Matt, coming up with capital? Yeah, so, okay.
Thanks.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn? Motion by Bob, second? Mr. Quackenbush, okay. Physical services adjourned.
Just because we were in the middle of the resolution, we got off point. I didn't forget to ask
like to call the Personnel Committee meeting to order. I just wanted to go over a couple things. I have nothing on the agenda, but I'll first open it up as all committee meetings to discussion for the committee, but to all legislators. Is there anything for the pleasure of the legislators of the committee? No?
Just,
Yes.
do you plan to discuss the non-bargaining a little bit?
That's what I want to talk about, yes. When we ended last year, we hadn't passed the non-bargaining contract. We have a few options. We can revise the salaries, or we can leave it as is and support the increments with the bonus and percentage with the raise. So we can work as the committee with the legislators' input, because having this be our first meeting, I'm clearly not in favor of this 3-person committee. And I apologize for that. But having a more open communication, I think, would be better. But if we pass the original that we started with little to no fanfare, we're able to clean up the policy. That's what we really need to do. And the items that need to be addressed, the payouts, the buybacks, then we can,
When you're done, just raise it when you're done.
sure. And then we can go back, because it's gonna take a lot of time to address the big item with the salaries. But we do have to address the salary schedule, the revisions. So, Tom, let me start with you.
And just food for thought, I think that the non-bargaining policy with, we call the bucket system in place, the way
Yeah.
that it is confusing, it's bogged down, I think we should just pay our people what they're worth, figure out what that number is. If I was explaining to one of the non-bargaining members, if you're in a bucket that's supposed to give you, I'm just going to use an example, $1,000 or $1,500, and that bucket is equal to a percentage raise, can't we just get through all this and let's focus more on what their items are, for instance, with vacation time accruals, personnel accruals, and just narrow it down. I don't think it would take that much effort to do it. I think we can get these people what they would deserve quickly. It wouldn't take that long. We would just have to be in agreement on what that is. And I think that our committee should work on that, present it to the legislators as a whole, and try to get through the bogged down parts of this, because I really think we can simplify this a lot more. Take advantage of not so much language. Let's make sure that we protect in our way that we want to non-bargaining people with the amount of money that they deserve, and no matter what those percentages are, let them know what their percentages are moving forward, or could be, and also let them know what their vacation, their sick time, and personal day accruals, PTO, or whatever we call it, is going to be if you're in this bracket. I understand the brackets for that, but as far as the pay, let's just pay what they're worth.
Fully understandable. Ryan?
A couple things. First, I want to say that I completely agree with what Legislator Quackenbush said, and I would go further in saying the idea put forth, I believe in the original non-bargaining policy as presented last year, as well as other employee policies of giving off-cycle bonuses, I believe would be the exact terminology, because policies lapsing. I would also like to see, instead of doing that, just again changing that in a percentage raise, and having that sort of be a policy, a de facto policy moving forward, if we all agree on that, of treating it as, let's just raise the pay and pay the people what they're worth. again is with this non-bargaining policy, it's kind of like a mutt of a policy, and I would very, very much like to see elected officials and any part-timers excluded from this policy. And we could pass an elected official policy. In that way, we're dividing the two up. They are two different animals. There's a big difference between elected official and appointed non-bargaining official. And also, as far as part-time is considered, I believe that we need to bring in some people, possibly from our auditing team, maybe some outside consultants, to figure out what we should be doing with part-timers instead of just having this sort of very vague rule of, well, it's about 17 and a half hours, but there's no way to have a part-timer work 10 hours a week if you need 10 hours a week, or 25 hours a week if you need 25 hours a week. There's only a method to work 17 and a half hours a week, which is not conducive to really most departments or most positions. So I believe taking the part-timers out of this policy, we can hopefully get a grapple on that. Taking the elected officials out, we can treat our non-bargaining employees fairly, and then treat the elected officials fairly as well, but in a separate policy. They're two different things, and we should treat them differently.
I'm with you. Along with elected and part-time, are you including appointed as well? Because we have appointed that are full-time, and I think
Well, that would be everybody, because somebody,
I know.
I really don't want to use any position, but
Okay.
anybody that's not,
Covered by
So
CBA.
basically
anybody that's
elected and
not in a
part-time
union or elected, any department head is an
is
appointed.
an appointed. So
official.
elected and part-time is
So
what
elected,
you're talking about.
take out electeds and take out all part-timers
Okay.
from this policy. And I think then it's very straightforward. Pay them what they're worth, and it's as simple as that.
Okay.
Maybe what we can do to help us along is just get a breakdown of exactly what he said we have. Let's look at the experience that we're dealing with today. Here's how many electeds we have that would fall under this.
Mm-hmm.
Here out names. Here's how many part-time appointed there are that would fall over here. And last, just imagine yourself coming to work for our county and having our director sit you down for your, what do you call it, welcome interview?
Orientation.
And say, oh, by the way, we have this system, this bucket program that you're eligible for. It's got to be so damn confusing to these people
Mm-hmm.
that they really don't know what they want. They just want the job, so they take it. Where we can simplify things so much easier, I believe.
Well, then if you're here for a period of time and your salary's not going up, but the person who works for you is, that's part of the problem. And I don't want to be at risk of losing someone who's a star to going to another job
Reward
that's
those
more
people
reward.
with cycles that Ryan talked about, or reward those people with those advances. You could have them, you don't need to have all these buckets to do that. You can,
Exactly.
we have evaluations, personnel evaluations of our non-bargaining employees that you could easily use to demonstrate that person deserves some sort of, you don't just do it because they've been here this long.
Right.
I could be here 20 years and do nothing. Some say I have, but I could be here 20 years and do nothing, and doesn't mean I deserve something.
Right.
It is based on. So anyway,
Right.
that's it.
I know you're on the committee, but he had his hand up, and
Yeah.
I'm a good committee.
No, this is going to be short and sweet. I 100% agree with Legislator Quackenbush and White's. I just want to say that I would like to see this non-bargaining show the respect to both the full-time and part-time employees.
Great. Good. I like that. Right.
I just wanted to say that I think this is an opportunity, especially with the nature of this policy, to really set a course for how we will, sort of a personnel policy as a whole at the county level. Because what we've heard, I think, time and time again is, well, we have this in here because it's in the other contract.
it is going, the progression is on its way, and I feel very positive about it. So the executive's office and myself is working well together. I feel very positive, and the future is, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So it's nothing that we can talk about openly yet, but very soon I look forward to doing that. So the executive and I spoke, and I feel comfortable saying that Matthew said the legislator's going to be taking the lead, and we're going to be working out, and that's why I wanted to have this committee meeting, figuring out how we want to present this, and then once we decide, we will be handing it over to him, and have him look over it and see how he feels, and then if there's any changes he wants to make, and him and I can work together from that point, and we'll go forward. So one other thing I want to mention is I'm going to ask Dan Cologne to come in and do a small tutorial for the intranet, just a slight refresher for the intranet. Some of us might not be as up to date as we could be. Maybe 15 minutes at the next personnel meeting. So that'll be it. Can I have
I would move to adjourn.
thank you?
Second.
Thank you.
Give me a break, will ya? You guys can't help if you talked all till now. You all talked out. Okay. Budget and Finance Committee. Is there any discussion from the floor? No, you want to get right to business, okay. Resolution delegating erroneous assessment correction approval authority to the auditing committee. Sponsor in a second. Second. Bob. Any discussion? Move it to full board. Okay. Resolution approving the abstract of audited claims, Office of the Legislator. Motion, second. Bob,
Wait, who was the first one?
Tom, or the legislator, Quackenbush.
Tom's fine.
Just, I just wanted to point something out. Under the impact statement for this resolution, if you look under justification and legislative impact, it says undetermined as to the necessity of a resolution to approve audited claims. And I want to point out, to clarify what that would mean, is the clerk and myself went through state law, our audit guidelines, the charter, and there is nothing in that we could find in any of them that state that we need to do a resolution approving an abstract of audited claims. I think having this every month is great because we can all look through it and see who we're paying what and what for. But and this is one of, I think, even with 1 month, one of the greatest things that I've seen come out of this impact statement already is for, since 2012, I believe, we've been doing a resolution, the county has been doing a resolution to approve an abstract of audited claims, and we don't really know why. So this has highlighted the fact that we're not really sure what it not necessarily empowers us to do this, but what compels us to do this. And I hope that, and I think that the impact statement will clarify some of these moving forward, and we'll know why we're taking these routine actions.
Would you like me to look into that, or to try to get a explanation on that?
I mean, I think if we can try and figure out, what I could find out, it began with the transition from a full-time county auditor to a auditing committee. But it didn't stipulate this provision in that resolution that made that move. So it would be, interesting to see if we need to be doing this, or if it's something like a budgetary transfer, where it should just be presented to us, and whether we really need a resolution or not.
Okay. Legislator Quackenbush and then legislator.
I would just suggest that we have Doug verify that with the clerk and what Ryan.
Okay.
I mean, just let us know what you come up with.
We've actually, Cheryl and I've already discussed this last week. It's true, you are not required by law to do this. I pointed out, as Ryan did as well, that even though you may not be required to do it, I would think, speaking for myself, if I were part of the legislature, that I would want this available to see where the bills that are being paid and to whom and so forth, to what entities. You can eliminate it, but I would expect that not all of you find it helpful to see. And then if someone asks you a question out there about a particular a bill or a payment, you can reference it.
And maybe I'm hearing it wrong, but I think what you're trying to say is there's just no resolution needed. Doesn't mean we have to discontinue.
It's not required by any of it.
So we don't necessarily have to have the resolution, but we can still do the function.
Mhm.
We can still do it.
And it
Is that
might,
what you're saying?
and it might be something I would support, at least, of as we move forward with adopting new audit guidelines, of including something like that in those audit guidelines. But at this time, there is actually nothing that compels us to do so. That being said, I think it is a great thing that we do to be able to see this, but it's something that was highlighted by the impact statement. Just wanted to point that out.
This is a good juncture for me to repeat myself. This is hardly an audit that's performed by whatever committee goes there and signs off on those things. We don't know, as for instance, if purchases are being made consistent with the county purchasing policy or not when we look at what those bills are. It's nice if you want to have some idea how the money is being spent, but it's not an audit, and it certainly does not serve the purposes of an audit. This is an evening where we talked about jobs that are available to this legislature, and certainly an auditing position is the other one. That aside from the clerk, and if the board truly is interested in having an audit performed on a monthly basis, then that's the avenue that they should pursue, not these committees whereby we just go there and sign stacks of paper, missing every fourth or fifth one, and being reminded that we've missed them. Anybody here missed one? Okay, come on. Let's just come to terms with reality. And so,
Well, would you like me to put this on the next month's agenda, and we can discuss it to hire
I
an
would,
auditor?
and it's the reason why I never offer to serve, just
Sure.
so the board
Okay.
knows.
That's fine.
Carrot and stick. I think he's volunteering to have it on the next month's meeting agenda.
And I think additionally, by updating our audit guidelines between the two, we would be in much better shape as far as auditing goes.
Yeah, I think that's an area we definitely have to look into, so. Okay, very good.
To Duke's point,
Legislator Quackenbush.
to Duke's point,
Yes.
in regards to hiring some
I did check into this a little bit last year, because we previously had part-time auditors, and it was roughly, I believe, around 15 to 20 hours a week, that's all. So I thought that was pretty reasonable. Legislator Wheeler, and then Legislator White's.
I agree with Duke, absolutely, and unless anyone else wanted to, I was gonna volunteer to be the member. In 2012, I was actually against getting rid of the auditor. I realized that politics always plays a part of it, but I think that the part
charter comes largely from a politically driven charter,
Yeah.
so
I know.
that is, that would be why, but it's another thing that should be addressed, and we could, because that is a power of us, we could, I maintain that I think we can, as we did with the county attorney position, temporarily change those powers within our term until a permanent change is made, hopefully this year.
I agree, I just brought it up because there was some suggestion of hiring somebody part-time and evidently we wouldn't be able to do that until such time as you change.
I would be happy to give us the opportunity. I would be happy to draft a section 211 that would take that provision out and just put it on the floor to everybody. And if the legislature so decided to hire a part-time auditor, at that time, there could be a local law adopted that would change it to that we could hire a part-time auditor. But I would be happy to do that and prepare that for next month. And just, it will be out there.
Okay, thank you. I sure wanted to, and I don't know if we're past your point.
No, that's
but-
okay. I wanted to make a suggestion if I could, being that Budget and Finance is a committee of the whole, and if we've determined that the monthly abstract does not need a resolution, I could add a B to discussion that just simply has the monthly abstract attached as a discussion item, and you guys, just ask questions about it instead of it being a resolution.
Legislator Martin.
Yeah,
Kelly.
the procurement record, we don't approve that each month.
No, and I could add that as well.
It would-
We,
yeah.
so it's on the agenda, and then
Yeah.
you would be, you would see the monthly
No, I understand.
abstract plus the procurement record, and also the budgetary transfers if you want under this committee.
Everybody would have them in advance. See them if you have questions.
Very good, very good. That's why you get paid the big bucks, right?
Don't put that in the paper, please. I've been in the paper enough this week.
She's not bargaining.
Okay, I'm not quite sure where I was at. Did I have a sponsor and a second on?
Yes.
Okay. Are we okay to move it to full board? All right.
Yep, full board.
Okay. Next resolution is appointing member to the audit committee, Office of the Legislator. I believe we should follow through with that. Okay, so would you?
I will. Yep.
Okay. Well, okay, let me first have a sponsor and a second.
I'll sponsor.
And I'll put the name in of Barbara Wheeler. Okay?
That's for an
The
amendment.
next
right?
one.
I'll second it.
Okay.
You need that, Cheryl, second for the amendment?
I don't think so.
You don't need it if the sponsor and the second are agreeable.
Yeah.
That name is included.
And we'll move it to full board.
Essentially, we're lucky to get somebody that's not tortured.
Yep.
Correct.
In the shortest month.
Okay? All right.
Just follow Tuesdays.
I think it should be 2 months in.
Okay.
I'd make an amendment to change it.
Okay, we can change that. Motion, second? Okay, you guys got a copy of two resolutions. The first resolution is authorizing the filing of an application for state assistance from the Household Hazardous Waste, HHW, State Assistant Program, and authorizing the signing of associated state master grant contract under the appropriated laws of New York State Treasurer. Do I have a motion and a second, or a sponsor and a second? Barbara? Bob? Any discussion? Move it to full board?
Yep.
Okay. Next resolution, bond resolution of the County of Montgomery, New York, the county, dated January 27, 2015, authorizing the replacement of bridges within the county, estimating the aggregate cost thereof being $2,100,000, appropriating said amount therefore and authorizing the issuance of $2,100,000 serial bonds of the county to finance said cost. have a sponsor in a second.
Second.
Barbara? Tom? Any discussion?
I just want to say I'm so glad, since I was a supervisor, the bridges have been a big problem. So I know that you have to be so glad of this. So I'm so glad to sponsor this, Paul.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll move it to full board.
Full board.
And how about a sponsor and a second for to adjourn? Bob and